Today, we are talking about the power of God's healing and how sometimes when we are in those darkest places and we feel like we're crying out and no one is listening, God is really doing deep and powerful work. Today, I'm interviewing someone who knows firsthand what it is like to live with extreme chronic pain for years and years. We are exploring chronic pain and illness and all that comes with it. The questioning of your strength, your identity, your faith, and sometimes even your sanity. The places where people feel sorry for you and you're thinking, please don't. The places where you're trying to look normal, so you mask and you go home and completely crash. The part where the doctors don't have the answers or they dismiss your symptoms and you start to think, is this all in my head? The part where your body does not cooperate and you wonder if you have any purpose at all. Chronic pain and illness are things that so many people live with, but they often go so very unseen. And that is where we are jumping in today.
Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to the Persistence in Prayer podcast hosted by Catholic mindset coach, wife, mother, educator, and speaker Kylie Hine. Kylie is passionate about helping you deepen your relationship with God through the power of prayer. This podcast is a space for high achievers who want to do it all, but also want to prioritize their spiritual life and grow in faith. Join us as we explore the beauty of persistence in prayer and the transformative impact it can have on our lives. Get ready to discover practical tips, insights, and inspiration to help you develop a daily prayer practice and cultivate a deeper sense of trust in God's plan for your life. Let's journey together towards a more fulfilled and faithful life as we invite the Holy Spirit in. Let's begin.
Today, I am joined by Heidi Kennedy. Heidi grew up in a small town in rural Western New York. She is a certified Catholic mindset coach through Metanoia Catholic and a certified Gallup Strengths accompaniment coach through the Human Formation Coalition. In March of 2024, she launched her coaching practice to help Catholic women navigate chronic pain, anxiety, and depression through mindset work and nervous system regulation. Heidi is a former lay worker for a Catholic monastery in upstate New York and has been featured on several podcasts. She has a deep love for the Catholic faith and a passion for helping women heal in ways that honor both the body and the soul. Outside of coaching, she enjoys kayaking with her husband, reading Jane Austen, and hosting weekly girls' nights with friends. You guys are going to absolutely love Heidi because she is just pure joy. But before I start our conversation with her, I just want you to have this on your radar. The next cohort of Becoming a Living Yes will start on March 3rd. So if you missed it the first time, it's coming around again, and it will be an evening session. So mark your calendars. More details will be coming out. You can always go to www.kyliemhine.com/livingyes to find more details or check out the show notes. And with that, let's jump in with Heidi. You radiate joy, Heidi. I don't know if you know that. And I don't think anyone who meets you for the first time would ever be like, man, that girl has suffered from some serious grief and anxiety and chronic pain. No one would guess that when they see you because you are just so happy.
I actually get that comment fairly frequently when people find out how sick I was. Like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. Like, it's almost verbatim. Well, I'll hear people say it's so fascinating.
What do you think people said when you were in the midst of all of it? Do you not feel like you were the same joyful energy?
I think people just felt sorry for me because I was so young when it happened. And my life just stopped at such a young age. So I think people just felt sorry for me.
That is not... we were just talking about reliving things in our body. People say to me all the time, even my kids are like, Mom, I just feel so sorry for you. all you can have is water. All you can eat is rice
Wow.
and meat and potato. And I'm like, I feel great. I'm happy eating rice and potatoes and meat because I feel good.
Mhm.
And when I eat other things, I don't feel good.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think of what people actually said to me versus how I felt internally. Internally, I was so angry because I was like, I just want to go back to my old life. Like, you've got to be kidding me. I was so mad, Kylie. I was so angry. I didn't want to suffer. I was literally pulling and scraping, trying to get back to quote unquote normal. Internally, I felt angry, but I feel like externally, I very much was like living a double life where I would present this supposed to be joyful or happy facade, but underneath, I was like crying all the time in private. I felt like I was being attacked by the devil. I just was like miserable and angry, and I felt like God was just not present. Like it was just this blackness. And it's just so interesting because when I started to then talk about my mental health struggles, like later on in my illness, I did not talk about them in the beginning at all. Like completely did not even, I didn't even know mental health was a thing. Literally didn't know mental health was a thing. And then I remember when I would start to talk about it and be like, oh yeah, I'm struggling with depression, or I don't know if I even labeled it anxiety at the time, but I knew I was struggling. I would get messages from people and they would be like, I had no idea. Again, it was this facade thing. Back then, it was a facade where I was presenting one image, but really underneath, I was totally different. Now it's flipped where the joy actually radiates and people see that. And I feel that they actually feel that more now. So it's so fascinating how mental health, you can live a double life, which is what I did. I do not recommend it. It's very exhausting because I wanted to cry a lot of the time and I just wanted to be miserable. And I just wanted to be like, this isn't fair. But I was like, well, that's not acceptable. I have to be perfect. I can't show weakness. I can't show that I'm struggling. I saw my struggle as a sign of weakness, which is so sad because really I was suffering.
Mm.
And I wish that I would have allowed myself not to enter into the suffering and wallow, but to just be like, yeah, I'm really having a hard time. And I just didn't really do that much at all.
I think our journeys are different. We're going to get into this for everyone who's just jumping in and listening right now. We're kind of starting in the middle, which I think is actually really beautiful. We're going to talk about chronic pain and illness. And for me, I think admitting, just saying the words, I'm sick, was so incredibly difficult. I mean, my husband would be like, you're sick. I'm like, no, I'm not. The masking
Yeah.
is a coping mechanism.
Yes.
So people would ask, how are you? I'm like,
Something.
I'm just kind of tired, or I kind of have a stomach ache, but you just
Yeah.
keep going. And I remember getting coached and I was having a really rough day and I was going to coach volleyball practice. And the person coaching me was like, what would it be like to just tell him, hey, I'm struggling today. I'm really struggling with my body today. I do not feel well. Please just know I'm not at my best. And if anything comes off towards you as, you know, you feel like I'm attacking you or I'm not as, politically correct or patient with you, it is me. It's a me thing. It has nothing to do with you.
Wow.
And that was very freeing, but it also was like, I can't show up and say that every single day.
The thing with chronic illness, chronic pain, chronic anything, you don't get a day off. You don't just get to go take a vacation. You literally can't escape from it. And so, like you said, like, yeah, I don't want to show up every day and be like, I don't feel well, right? Like, nobody to be around that. Nobody wants to show up that way. But that's how I felt. That sounds like that's how you felt internally. You're just like, I don't feel well. I really don't. It's hard for me to do basic activities.
And then
hard.
Yeah. And then you get home and you just crash. And I remember the worst of it when I was in the worst of my illness. Oh man, I was wrecked because I was really struggling in discerning on leaving my job and doing more coaching and spiritual direction. And I felt like the Lord had been calling me to that for quite some time. But I was so scared because I didn't know what we were going to do about money. And I thought, no one is gonna hire me. No one wants a sick girl. Like, if I'm truly honest, when I go into an interview, I am sick and my memory is atrocious right now. I think that was the thing that scared me the most was the way that I felt like my memory, like the brain fog was slipping so much. I mean, students that I could tell you all kinds of things about them. Kids that I had taught for more than 1 year even. I could be in front of them and just blank on their name.
Yeah.
I was like, this is not normal.
Yeah. And then did you start to feel like you were going crazy?
Yes.
Sort of thing? What is wrong with me?
Yeah. Even in adoration, that was really where I reflected this morning, was that little girl self, that part of me that still sometimes gets angry when someone offers me a solution and is like, hey, you should try this. I go back to that little girl self who had such bad stomach pain as a kid. And the belief that still comes up is no one believes me, because my parents, they did take me to doctors and we looked at things when I was a kid and they never found any results. And then they said, oh, it must be anxiety. So took me to a therapist. The therapist was like, you do not need to be here. And I look back and I'm like, was it because I was masking? Like, I just showed up and I was like, everything's fine. Or was it something else? I mean, now I can trace it to food issues and all kinds of things, but I just stopped talking about it. And so as I got older, my mom was like, well, it seems like it all went away. And I said, it didn't go away. I stopped talking about it because I felt like nobody believed me. And even when I was an adult and I got to the point where I couldn't sleep at night because I had such bad stomach pain, and my husband said, you have to go to the doctor. I didn't want to go. And I went, and the doctor was like, and I love her, by the way, this doctor, I really appreciate her. And I know she was doing her job, but I remember sitting in the doctor's office and she's like, are you sure you're not just having some anxiety? Are you sure it's not just you have a newborn at home? And I lost it. I just started crying in the doctor's office. I was like, this is not anxiety. This is not having a newborn at home. This is something different.
Yeah. I relate to this so much. I didn't have that specific experience, but when you don't feel like people understand, it could be your family, your friends, your community, your classmates. I was in school when it happened. My classmate had no idea. Like, oh, Heidi's just not coming to school, like, for weeks on end. When you go to doctors and they don't have an answer. I went to one specialist. I drove 2 hours, and his only advice was, well, just don't be a gym class hero.
Oh my God.
Absurd. Why would you say that to an otherwise healthy young girl that suddenly is now not able to function? Like, there's clearly something going on. So the dismissal that is so often coming from a doctor, and I want them to be well-meaning, and some of them just don't have the greatest bedside manner. And it's so sad because it's like you are doing so much harm. You are doing so much harm by dismissing the person in front of you who is suffering greatly. Could you at least meet them with compassion? Could you at least listen? Could you at least offer kindness? Even if you don't have a solution. I actually, Kylie, to this day, this is now probably 12 to 14 years ago, the doctor that I have the most respect for, he was a specialist. I went about an hour away, a different specialist. I went about an hour away to see him, and he was so kind. He was so compassionate. And at the end of the visit, he's like, I am so sorry. I don't know what is bothering you. I don't find anything wrong with my findings. He said, I can see you're suffering. I don't know what the answer is. I have the most respect for that doctor of almost any other doctor that I worked with, because he was kind, he was compassionate, he saw my suffering, and he was honest. He didn't give me a garbage answer. He said, I don't know what is causing the problem. And I have so much, like literally 14 years later, I remember him, and I remember his kindness more than anything else. The kindness that he had, the empathy, the understanding that I was suffering, that is more powerful than almost any other drug, any other diagnosis. It's when you feel alone in your suffering, that makes it worse. Like, we were built for community. God made us for community, literally created us to be in community. And when we isolate, when we hide, when we mask, when we pull back, when we don't feel understood, like, we just become tighter and tighter and tighter. and the pain or the illness or the symptoms get worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
Community is so important. Understanding is so important.
Being seen. I think that's what the biggest thing that I'm hearing from you, and also my own experience, is just being seen, not to have somebody fix anything. This shows up just in regular coaching too, things outside of the body, that place where someone can hold space for us and just let us be seen.
Yes.
It's like the Lord, we can go before the Lord, and the place we receive the most love from him is when we are naked and unashamed. But it is so hard to go to that place because our experiences have taught us that that doesn't feel safe.
Right.
And there are parts of ourselves, our protector parts, come out very strong.
And it's so fascinating, Kylie, on a spiritual level, when we come to see the Lord, when we're naked and unafraid and we come, that's when we feel relief. On a physiological level, our nervous system, if we come with it, like, there's something wrong with you, like you need to be fixed, you're broken, we are literally sending our nervous system into a state of alarm. And when we do that, then it causes the symptoms, the problems, the illness, the pain to be worse. But if we come and approach ourselves from compassion and understanding and love and just like, hello, body, I want to take care of you. How can I best support you today? Our body will literally show up differently. It takes away that alarm. It takes away that fight or flight and allows the nervous system and the body to sink back into rest and digest and healing. That's when the cells can actually heal. So it's a spiritual level. Yes, it's a physiological level. It's a mindset level. It's how we approach ourselves. So fascinating when we start to see the mind, the body, the spirit, like they really are connected. They really are connected and they impact us so greatly.
Yeah,
So greatly. I wish I had known that years ago. I didn't, but I wish I had, because that would have changed my life, but in a different way.
Everything is integrated and properly ordered. And I'm going to let you talk about this here in a minute, but the way that our bodies are created to heal, really created to heal. The Lord made them that way. I think that blows my mind, and it changes the way that we experience pain, the way that we experience anxiety, the way that we experience suffering is so different. And Heidi, for those of you listening who have never heard from Heidi before, was a healthy, active teenager. We talk about how we both love to dance and play volleyball. She was super active, did all the things. Joyful. I'm sure you were very joyful and authentic, just like you are right now. And then all of a sudden in gym class, 17 years old, your whole life changes.
Yeah, I went from everything you described, so active, living a, quote unquote normal life, to not. I was 17, was my junior year in high school, March 8th, 2011, Tuesday. It's one of those dates that is seared in your memory. Second to last period, I was doing a plank, and all of a sudden my back lit up on fire. Like it was so painful that I couldn't even hold the plank. And I was in really good shape at that point. And so I just dropped down to my knees. I was like, what is going on here? This is bizarre. I tried going back up again, and I just couldn't. I was in excruciating pain. And so our gym teacher, he came over and like, something wrong? I was like, I'm having like a lot of pain. And clearly, like, I think he did believe me because I was very active otherwise. But from that day, I never returned to normal. The back pain just continued. So I went home. I laid on the couch. I didn't return to school the rest of that week. I went to a chiropractor. He tried helping me. He couldn't figure out what was wrong. And then I was out of school. So this is March. I'm out of school the full rest of that semester, my junior year in high school. I went to doctors. I had testing, blood scan, bone test, MRI, X-ray, specialist. Nobody could figure out what was wrong. I was literally just laying on the couch for hours at a time every single day. I would get up and go to the bathroom and come back. And that was it. I did not move from the couch. And even just laying on the couch was an excruciating pain. It hurt to stand in front of the sink and brush my teeth. I barely had enough energy to take a shower. I lost so much weight from inactivity, and I wasn't hungry. that my stomach was concave and I could count my ribs. It was awful, awful. So this was my junior year in high school. Thankfully, praise be to God, I was in a private school. So I was able to catch up on summer school over the summer to get like back on track. And the way I did that, Kylie, was laying on the couch on my back. I would pick up a textbook, read it. I'm laying on my back, put it down, pick up a clipboard, write, put it down, pick up the textbook, read it. These are like heavy history textbooks. I look back now and I'm like, oh my goodness, what was I doing? That's awful. That's not way to learn. But I was so determined. I was like, no, I'm not living like this. I want my life back. I was doing volleyball and dance and handbells and choir and band. I was active. Like what is, I'm now laying on the couch for hours at a time every day in excruciating pain, not able to sleep, not able to eat, and losing so much weight that my pants don't stay on. This is absurd. I hated it. I was so angry and so depressed and so anxious. And I didn't even have names for the depression. I didn't have a name for the anxiety. I didn't even know what it was. I didn't have a name for the pain because nobody could figure out what it was. So I came back to school in quotes. I physically would go to school, Kylie, but I was mentally so checked out. I remember I have vivid memories of just pacing back and forth in the back of the classroom because I was in too much pain to sit. I have no idea what the teacher was saying. I actually remember thinking, I can't focus on what you're saying right now. I have no idea the last hour of class that passed. No, I can't remember it. Sometimes I would have to leave and go to the nurse's office and lay down. And it was just horrendous. It was just absolutely horrendous. So that was my quality of life. I did no extracurriculars. I would literally go to school, come home and lay down on the couch, and then try and get some sleep, but not be able to sleep well because I was in so much pain, and then just repeat. It was this cycle of misery, pain, misery, pain. And at this point, I still don't have an answer. Nobody has been able to help me. I've tried physical therapy. That didn't really work. So I got through my senior year of high school and still living in this quality of life. And I commuted to college, but it was about half an hour away. College was kind of just a continuation of high school where I'm pacing back and forth in the back of the classrooms. I'm trying to sit, but having difficulty because I'm in an environment, it's college, not everybody knows you. I was getting weird looks from my classmates and questions, and it was just humiliating. I remember this one class, this girl just kept turning around and looking at me and staring at me. Now, I'm in so much pain that I can't sit. I'm standing in the back of the class, really, really trying to focus. And she just kept turning around and whispering to her friends. Like, it was just not an ideal situation. So I was in super, super amounts of pain. But again, I had that like, if you could picture me like this, like, no, I am going to live a normal life. I am going to do this. I am not going to be defined. I am going to return to normal. Clearly, I wasn't normal, Kylie. This was not a normal life. I'm barely able to function, and I'm laying on the couch for hours at a time every day. So I got through about 2.5 years of college, and then I just couldn't take it anymore. My body said no. My pain was increasing, getting worse. And then my last semester of college, my hip popped out of place, like it popped out of alignment, and I could barely walk. It was excruciating, like even more pain than I was already in. It was excruciating. So I went to the chiropractor. He put it back in place, but he's like, something's going on here, Heidi. Like, I can put it back in place, but it didn't seem to stay. And so after that, I then had chronic pelvic pain. It felt like knives were slicing my inside, my vaginal area, my pelvic area, my low back. Absolutely horrendous. So I was just like, I can't take this anymore. And I withdrew from college, which felt like such a failure, right? You're 18, 19, 20 years old. Can you imagine just being like, I'm actually too ill to go to college? I have my whole life ahead of me and I can't even get this one box checked off. I remember feeling so just like, is this really my life right now? I remember thinking, this can't be it. So I withdrew from college and I spent the next decade looking for answers because at this point I still didn't have any. So I had the chronic back pain. I now had the slicing vaginal and pelvic pain, awful, awful pain. And I then discovered that I had PCOS and endometriosis. I had PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, and endometriosis is where basically the lining of the uterus grows outside of uterus and it causes a lot of pain. So I'd always had really painful periods and they were all over the place and just super unpredictable. So I'm already having this chronic back pain, pelvic pain, plus the period pain, where I would just lay on the couch when my period would come because like I was already laying on the couch, but I would lay on the couch in the fetal position, curled up in pain and maxing out on Midol, like an over-the-counter painkiller, and it wasn't even touching the cramping. If you ever looked at a list of all the PMS symptoms, I have almost all of them. The bloating, the headaches, not quite the nausea, but just not feeling well, the severe cramping. I've never experienced the extreme fatigue to the point where my body would physically shut down. Like I remember sitting at the table one time and I physically could not hold my head up. My body was shutting itself down. I had to go in and just kind of like black out. My body just boom, shut itself down because it couldn't handle it. So over the next 10 years, I just looked for answers again and again and again. And I looked for answers, but I just didn't find any. Nobody could figure out what was wrong. So at this point, I have no job, right? I couldn't work. I have no college degree. I have no quality of life. And I'm going to doctor's appointments 2, 3, 4, sometimes 5 days a week. That was my existence that I got to.
Heidi, what was your faith life like at that time?
Yeah. So my pain started in 2011. Fast forward to 2017. I was raised cradle Catholic, but I didn't have the greatest catechesis. Like I didn't know about the true presence until I went to college, actually, Kylie. So shortly, I'm 17, go to college like a couple of years later. I didn't even know about the true presence. Then I went to college, became part of the Newman community there. I learned about like, whoa, look at the health of the myth. I learned about Jesus Christ being present in the Eucharist. I learned about the Catholic faith and the saints and the history and all of the beauty of Catholicism. And it was like I was stepping through the wardrobe into Narnia. That is what the experience was like of not knowing about the faith to stepping through the wardrobe, learning about my faith. It was like, oh my goodness, this was the greatest mystery ever. Like, who didn't tell me about this? It was incredible. I just remember almost felt like I was trying to drink from a fire hose though, because it was like, oh, there's so much great information. I want to learn it all sort of thing. So when I went to college, there was that experience. And then when I withdrew from college a few years later, I got to the point of being in my absolute worst state of depression I'd ever been in. It was 2017. I literally just honestly wanted to die. I was being attacked by the devil, having borderline suicidal thoughts. I knew I didn't want to kill myself. I was like, that's not the answer. But I also didn't want to live. I didn't want to go through the rest of my life being miserable and in pain all the time. So my faith life, I remember many, many times praying to God and just begging him, Lord, please, I can't take this anymore. I have a vivid memory of writhing back and forth in pain on my bed at night, trying to fall asleep and sobbing and just begging God, please take this away. And all I felt was blackness. There was no connection. I didn't hear God. Again and again, I called out and begged him and sobbed and cried and begged again. And it was just this utter blackness. I remember it felt like a black hole, like I was praying to a black hole. So I was working with a priest at the time for spiritual direction / counseling / support. I was just in a rough place. And he was very instrumental in encouraging me to continue praying, even when I wasn't getting the response I wanted or the healing that I wanted. It was a very sad and lonely time, but I can also look back and say, wow, that was a very transformative time. And I learned a lot. It was not fun in the moment at all.
The way that God's grace works. I can say this now because I feel like I'm a little bit on the other side. Not that I don't still have pain or that I'm not still sick in any kind of way. And for anyone who is in the midst of the worst of it, like, man, just know God is still there. Like God is there. And my favorite prayer to pray is, Lord, thank you. Lord, thank you for loving me enough to let me suffer for the salvation of souls. Because if I can thank him for the pain first before I ask it to go away, before I ask him to take it, like just praise him for it, because he does not allow anything that he cannot use for our salvation or for the salvation of someone else. And when I can just recenter myself on that, when the hard days come, everything else is easier. But when you're in the midst of it, man, it is so so hard because all of those lies and all those beliefs become so loud. They're so
Yeah.
loud.
Yeah.
And what a beautiful
Yeah. They
gift
are.
that you had someone there to help you
Mhm.
remember. Like,
Yes.
Heidi, this is not the end.
Yeah. Father B was his name. And I just have such fond memories of, wow, he was the person that I felt understood by, that I would go to and he would understand. And so you'd asked about what my faith life was like. So it was very dark at that point. So this is 2017, the lowest of the low. Father B was, I think he was just really trying to help me as much as he could because he could see I was suffering. And this is where I was at, Kylie. He said, I can chuckle at it now. At the time, it was frustrating, but I was meeting with Father B, and he's like, okay, I'm going to give you these prayers to say, and say them consistently. I'm going to give you one prayer to say for 1 month, and then another prayer to say for 6 months, and say them every single day. And I would like you to do this. And Kylie, I'm not proud to admit this. I rolled my eyes at him. I don't think I did it externally, but internally, I was like, whatever, there be. I was at that point, I had exhausted all my options. I was so depressed. I didn't want to live. I was in so much pain. And I rolled my eyes at him and internally had the thought of like, whatever. I have nothing to lose. I have nothing to lose. Sure, give me your prayers. I'll give it a try. So I must have had a spark of hope though, because I remember calculating in my head and thinking, so this was like early 2017, and thinking, okay, 1 month plus 6 months is 7 months. That puts me around like September. Maybe if I pray these prayers, maybe something will happen in the fall. That's how low I was. I was just like, all right, I've tried everything. So I was like, all right, fine, Father B. So he wrote them down on a sticky note. The first one was something to the effect of, it was a one sentence. It was like, Lord, teach me to pray for myself as you taught your disciples. Literally a one sentence prayer. And he's like, you need to pray this every morning and every evening. And for a month. So I did that and nothing happened. So then I start the 6-month program. He's like, so I'm going to give you this other prayer and I want you to pray this every morning for 6 months. And this prayer was, Lord, you can heal me in body, mind, and spirit. Please do it for me. Followed by 3 Hail Marys. And so I committed to that as well. And interestingly enough, Kylie, I had started that one and then like I missed a day or something like that. Like, oh, okay, I'll start over. So I started my like marker for counting. I was like, all right, I'll start over.
Perfectionist.
Oh my God. For sure. For sure. So started my counter over. I was like less than 2 weeks into it. It was April 6th of 2017. And I had a really rough day. All my days were rough at that point. I'd gone somewhere that day. And I remember getting home and the only thing I was looking forward to was going to my chiropractor the next day. I was in so much pain. I just lived from doctor appointment to doctor appointment. So I was like, all right, late at night, I'll do my stretches. I'll say the prayers, brush my teeth, and go to bed. So I went upstairs, laid on the exercise mat in my room, did my stretches, and then I said the prayers. And after I finished the 3rd Hail Mary, something changed. And I was kind of like, what happened? And I got up from the mat and I remember thinking, I'm healed? Like, what is going on here? And immediately the Bible story of the paralytic rising from the mat came into my head. And it was so bizarre. It was like I was in the twilight zone. It was like I was starting to suddenly realize, like, am I actually healed? And I remember pacing back and forth in my room and actually physically look in the mirror and hitting my face, being like, is this for real? What is going on here? This is bizarre. And there was nothing supernatural. I didn't see any bright lights. There weren't angels. There was no, sparks, nothing like that. But I heard God's voice and he just said, well done, good and faithful servant. You carried your cross. Here's your new life. And at this point, I had been hearing nothing but blackness. For years, I had prayed and God I didn't see him. I didn't hear him. I didn't experience him. And then to all of a sudden receive this message from him, and it was in my thoughts. That's how God speaks to us. Mindset coach, you know that. And it was he just said, well done, good and faithful servant. You carried your cross. Here's your new life. And I remember exactly where I was standing in my room and thinking, oh my goodness, I have a second chance to live again. I have a second chance to live. Interestingly enough, so I thought I was healed, but the pain didn't entirely go away. It was so odd, Kylie. It was like I went through a healing experience, but the pain was still there. But something had happened. This happened on April 6th. So anyways, just a few days later, I went to see I was working with a specialty pelvic floor physical therapist, and I told her about what happened. God is so fascinating because this person, she was either a lapsed Catholic or her husband was a lapsed Catholic. Like somewhere in there was Catholicism. So I think God was trying to speak to her. So I told her about this experience. She kind of listened with her eyes got really wide. And she's like, well, can I still do the massage work? And I said, sure. So she put on her gloves and she went to touch my leg where she was doing the massage work. And she had seen me a few days before I had this healing experience. And then she saw me just a few days after. And she's like, your muscle tone is completely different. It had been super tight like this. And then it was so much calmer. She had no medical explanation for it. She, at this point, had been seeing me for a couple of years, I think. She was shocked. She was completely blown away. So what had happened? That was 2017. It was not until, honestly, like 2 years ago or so that I realized what had happened. I no longer had suicidal thoughts from that healing. I no longer had the depression that was crippling. I was protected and healed from the attacks from the devil and the suicidal ideation and depression. And I experienced physical relief. And my body, my PT, could see that I experienced a physical change. So yes, I still had suffering after that, but there was relief. Like there was mental relief and there was a physical difference. It was incredible to then realize what happened.
Praise God, Heidi. You brought up the story of the paralytic. I'm over here like crying as you're crying.
Great. We're mindset coaches. We love tears.
We love feeling. We love feeling our feelings. You mentioned the story of the paralytic, and I remember praying with that often because there's so many beautiful things. And I have directees and also clients who have chronic pain, chronic illness, just things that they are going through. And they're like, I don't know how to navigate this, because we fall into this mindset where we feel like victims. And I want to highlight a couple things. So first, the story of the paralytic. I go back to this often because there are so many components to the story. One, there's the friends. You talked about community. There are the friends who are literally ripping off the roof. Who does that?
Yes.
Like friends who fight for you. And I would have been the person like, what are you doing? Don't do that. And they're like, no, we're going to fight for you when you don't have the strength to fight. Right. Yeah. And those are the people in your life I can think of that I got angry with sometimes because I'm like, I don't want to fight anymore. I'm done fighting. I'm tired of having hope. Hope is painful because you hope and then it doesn't work. And then I'm spending all this money for something that's now a burden to you or a burden to my family. And it didn't work. Right. So you have these people who are fighting for you, who are willing to rip off the roof for you because they love you so much. And they're like, you know what? Jesus is going to heal you. Like, we're just going to get you to him. We're going to find you the help you need. And then the paralytic gets to Jesus. And what does he do? He says, what is more difficult? And he doesn't have him rise first. What's more difficult? The internal healing.
Yeah.
And that comes first. And sometimes we are begging for the physical healing. And I remember just getting to a point where it's like, okay, Lord, heal the inside first. Like, if this is what it takes, if it is for me to wake up to this, then heal the inside first. And I will deal with the rest. Because just like you said, when that inside is healed, everything changes, everything shifts. And it is so incredibly powerful. And we're not saying that healing is like a one-time flip the switch, everything's better. right? We're all still healing. We're going to be healing till we're in the arms of the Lord. Yeah. But that part, we forget sometimes that this is what is needed. And looking at all the ways that I grew in humility, from having to ask for help, from not being able to be self-reliant, from the stripping of all of the things that we enjoy, right? How you talked about, like, I had to grieve. I was not the active kid that I thought I was supposed to be, that everyone else got to be. There's such a stripping. For me, I've gone through stripping of, you can't eat this anymore.
Yeah.
Let go of that satisfaction. Let go of that comfort. Let go of your lotion and your smell good things, because you can't have those anymore. And if you do choose to have them, that's fine, but it's not going to feel good.
Right. You're literally grieving the life that you had. It's like you've lost that life, like you've lost a loved one, like you lost that life that maybe you loved or things that you loved. It is truly a grief, a sadness.
And a stripping.
Yeah.
And you mentioned rolling your eyes at the priest. I remember my sister, she worked so much with gut health and talks about the mind-body connection. So I shouldn't say she works with gut health necessarily, but it's really about the mind-body connection. And I remember her telling me about these supplements, and I was like, I just am not, like, I love you, but I don't want to put anything else in my body, because things going in my body are not helping. And she's like, if you wanted to get better, you would. And I was so angry. I was so angry with her. I was like, why would you say that to me? You think I haven't tried to get better? But she said it in love, and I can look back now and be like, you know what? There were days when I didn't fight. I gave up my control, the things that I could control. And we always have a choice of how we want to show up. And I was not always choosing well. I was exhausted, and that's okay.
Sure.
But it's just like prayer. When you miss a day, you got to begin again.
Yeah.
You have to show up, just like you fighting, like, I'm going to graduate from high school. I'm not going to let my circumstances dictate how I live my life.
Right.
And that's the mindset shift. That's the difference that kind of begins to happen. Hey friends, this is just the first half of Heidi's incredible healing journey. It started internally, and I really want to encourage you to come back next week to hear what happens next. It's such a testimony to God's goodness, and you really don't want to miss it. For anyone who is so tired of guessing, tired of masking, tired of trying to push through, and wants healing, wants a next step, please come back next week. And I also want to encourage you, Heidi and I are so excited to share this. Come join us on February 16th at 1 p.m. East, 12 p.m. Central. Heidi and I are hosting a live workshop called I'm Tired of Living Like This, What to Do When Chronic Pain and Illness Won't Go Away. You can find the link in the show notes, but this workshop is really for anyone who's struggling with chronic pain, chronic illness, or just is in a season where your body is not capable of doing what it used to do. It's not capable of doing what you want it to do, and you're really just feeling stuck. Again, this is a free workshop, but you are going to get so much teaching from Heidi. And if you listen to her story next week, you are going to learn how profoundly powerful it is. I will be joining her. We are going to incorporate prayer, mindset work, and it's the beginning of some deep healing. So if that is something that you need, please sign up, come join us, invite a friend you know who could maybe benefit from this, and we would love to see you there. And to make sure that you don't miss next week's episode, be sure that you're following along on your favorite podcast platform. I appreciate you all. Love you so much. Praying for you always. Please continue to pray for me and to pray for Heidi. Beautiful souls, thank you again for journeying with me. If you have been blessed by this episode, it would mean the world to me if you would leave a review. Be sure to screenshot it, share it on your social media stories, and don't forget to tag me on Instagram or Facebook at Kylie M. Hine. Stay persistent in prayer, protect your peace, and as always, share the light of Christ with everyone around you.